Hello, this is Alan. I'm with Satechi, and today I'm going to give you a brief overview on how to use the universal remote with iOS devices. So the universal remote is an infrared transmitter. It will work with a variety of infrared devices like TVs, DVD players, and cable boxes, etc. The packaging for the universal remote contains an activation code as well as instructions on how to download the RemoteBean iOS app and how to make an account and activate your universal remote. So we'll assume that you've done that and open the RemoteBean app. The first screen when you open the app will ask you to add a room. The rooms are a way of organizing the remotes for the different devices throughout your home or office. So let's say we wanted to set up a TV in our living room. We touch Living Room, then select it from the Rooms menu, and then touch the plus sign in the upper right to add a remote. First, you'll select a brand from the list in the RemoteBean app. There's a lot of brands, but just in case your brand isn't on the list, there's a Not in List option at the very top. For now, let's say we have an Acer TV. So we select Acer. Next, you'll be asked to enter the model number of your remote and your device. It could be a TV, cable box, etc. This step is optional. However, if you go through with it, it can help you speed up your your setup process and get your universal remote to start working faster. The model number is typically on the back of the TV and the remote, but since we don't have one in front of us, we'll just skip this step. Next, you'll be asked what device type it is. If the brand you selected makes cable boxes, DVD players, they would show up here. In this case, we only have TV for this option, or you can always pick Not in List, but we'll pick TV. Next, you'll be asked to plug in the control device, which is the universal remote. So separate the halves here and plug it into the headphone jack. Then hit Next. So for this screen, it's labeled Test Code, and what it's asking you to do is press the button on your iOS device and see if it performs the corresponding function on your TV. Make sure when you're doing this step, since the universal remote is an infrared transmitter, you're going to want to point it at your TV, at the infrared receiver, or whatever other device you're using the universal remote for. So go ahead and point it at your TV and press the button. In this case, it's volume up. You'll get a quick buzz and it will ask you, yes, it did perform the function, or no, it did not perform the function. So if you press that button and the volume did go up on your TV, you would hit check. Now it's asking you to hit volume down. And again, we're just going to assume it worked. Then it will ask you to pick a remote skin, and you can adjust the color background of your remote. Once you have something you like, you can hit download in the upper right, give your remote a name. In this case, I'll just leave it the default Acer TV. And once you hit OK, from the Rooms menu, you can select the living room, and then your Acer TV remote will be right here. You can touch it to bring it up. You can scroll through all the different buttons here. So when we were setting up the remote, we assumed that those functions were working, but what if they don't work? What if when you hit the volume up, it didn't do anything? That's where the learning device comes in, which is this device here. This lets you program functions of your remote into the RemoteBean app so that the transmitter can use them. So let's show how that works. Let's do the same thing and try and set up an Acer TV in the living room. So we'll select Acer here, then Next, TV. So if we pressed volume up here and it didn't do anything, we'd hit X and it would ask us to plug in the learning device. So you take this one out, plug in the learning device, and then hit Next. The next screen you'll see is several pages of buttons. And what you'll be asked to do is when you press one of these buttons, it will ask you to record the button press. And what this means is it wants you to grab the remote that you're trying to program with. In this case, this is just a remote we have for one of our TVs. once you press the button, it'll say recording volume up. So since this is a receiver, you're going to want to point the remote at the receiver and press volume up. And it'll give you a success message once you do it. So you can, using this screen, you can program as many different buttons as you want. And it even has some of the more advanced cable buttons like a guide, exit, menu, some of the colored buttons that are found on some remotes. So once you've programmed all the buttons that you want, you would hit save. And then it will ask you if you want to test it. And if you do, you can hit yes. And once you've programmed all those buttons in, you can press it and it will ask you if it worked or not worked, kind of like the last testing menu. And once you've verified that all these buttons work, then you can hit save again. And you'll be brought back to this similar screen where you can pick the color of your remote. And it works the same way. You just download, select your name, and then you'll have these remotes that you can select from. So from the rooms menu, you can add as many different rooms as you want, and for each room you can add as many remotes as you want. The universal remote is a great way to consolidate all of your remotes into one device. You can use all of your remotes from your iOS device for all your different cable boxes, DVRs, that sort of thing. So I hope this video helped you set up your universal remote and start using it. I think that you'll really be pleased with how the remote can reduce clutter in your house or office by eliminating multiple remotes. And enjoy using your universal remote.